The biggest roadblock for young men leading a dance or learning to lead a dance is not a technical one. Okay, it isn't about having rhythm, and it isn't about knowing how to execute a ton of crazy or exciting moves on the floor. It's actually much simpler than that. The biggest thing that keeps young men, in particular, although men generally, from becoming a good lead is just this. It's simply this. It's permission. Yeah, that's right. Permission. Not from your partner. Yes, guys, that's important. Uh, no, it's the permission that you give yourself. Okay, there's this internal dialogue that says, who am I? Who am I to lead her around the floor? And honestly, that dialogue has led to more failed attempts at leading than an entire lifetime of having two left feet. Uh, if you've ever if you've ever asked a girl to dance, or I mean, honestly, if you've ever talked to a girl, you know that 90 to 100% of all of your thoughts at that point are about whether or not she thinks you're good enough. Um, but here's the thing, guys. She wants you to lead her. Okay, it's that simple. Okay, good or bad, professional or amateur, whether you're just hot and fit and you're just a killer, or maybe you're horribly out of shape and look like you've been hit with a stick too many times in the face. She doesn't really care. Okay, she just wants you to do your job. Don't get me wrong. She has preferences. We all do. So do you. You probably thought about that before you asked her specifically to dance. So, don't get all high and mighty about it unless you're planning on asking every girl on the floor to dance. But while you're thinking about all of those things, the thing that you're missing is she's the follower. Okay? Did she say yes to dancing with you? Great. She is now officially at your mercy. And I say that very intentionally. Because believe it or not, that's pretty much how she thought about it too. Okay? Women are pretty canny with this stuff. Okay? If it's our job to initiate, to press forward against all odds and, uh, give ourselves the best chance, well, okay, then it's her job to give us that chance. And that's no small ask. And they treat it with a good deal of caution, I can tell you. Even if a guy is well-meaning, and not all of them are, he might lead very poorly, which, at best could lead to a very boring dance, or at worst, might lead to her getting seriously hurt. And she's doing this mental math every time a guy approaches her. Okay? I mean, more on that another time, but it's a big deal. And you definitely need to keep that in mind. But here's the thing. The important part is what comes after she says yes. Okay? Because by saying yes, she is now leaving it in your hands. Okay? She's acknowledging that you did your job initiating this dance. And she accepts what might come next. Okay? She does this, though, because implicitly she understands that it's our duty to lead her now. She's forfeit control so that both of you can do your jobs. Okay, which gives you both the best possible chance to have a good time. So, naturally, this is where guys run into trouble. Most guys fall into two camps here. There's those that lead too hard, and those that don't lead hard enough. Go ahead and give it a go, and you're going to find out real fast which of those camps you fall into. But I promise you fall into one. I can touch on both of those more at another time. I will touch on them here, but I can really go in depth later. But there's something that I want guys to understand. In both of these approaches, the root issue is the same. And it's this sense of trepidation. It's this sense of what I was talking about before, this who am I to lead her? Am I good enough? What's the deal? And I'm going to explain that. So first of all, guys that lead too softly, obviously they're afraid to do something wrong and upset her. Okay, that just clearly they're very tepid. They're not giving a solid lead. But here's the thing, maybe they're afraid of, accidentally touching her inappropriately, or they don't want to seem really forceful and controlling. I get all that. This is especially the case when they think the girl is a much better dancer than them. Either way, this is going to end up resulting in a really weak lead that she has difficulty feeling, and honestly can even have the unintended consequence of coming off just as creepy as the guy was trying to avoid in the first place. So, that's where I would actually argue that's where most guys go wrong, especially nowadays. I think that's more of a problem. But there's also the guys that lead too hard. They actually seem to have the opposite problem. They're still afraid of doing something wrong, typically. Excuse me. But the answer that they come up with is to just power through the dance. They force their way through these moves, regardless of the girl's readiness to execute on any of them. And, they go through the dance as if they're scared that the second that they stop trying to plow through these steps and plow through everything in their repertoire, that she's just going to suddenly realize they're no good, and why would she want to dance with them in the first place? But it's a problem. They might tug too hard, on her arms or wrists. They might actually end up causing her some real injury by attempting to pull off some moves that either they or their partner had no business trying at the level that they're at. Lots of these things can happen and do happen all the time. So I'm being very serious about this. But here's the thing. Both of these approaches, regardless of which one you fall under, are a really good way to get a girl to never dance with you again. But the solution to both of those is actually just to understand what I'm telling you from the get-go. She wants you to lead, okay? She almost innately wants you to lead. Like, she understands that. So those of you that lead too softly, you really need to learn how to give yourself permission to touch her. I know it sounds weird and creepy, but you're dancing. You have to do it. I don't want to sound too crass, but if you've ever been to a strip club, even a stripper will tell you that when a guy's getting a lap dance and he's just staring at her and won't touch her, she feels weird. She doesn't like it. It feels creepy. You paid the price of admission. Don't just sit there, She wants to feel you, okay? I'm not even talking about the strippers anymore. This is just real life. She wants to feel you, okay? She wants to know that you're there. You got to remember, she is relying on you to take control during this dance. Okay, she can't safely execute all these spins and dips and the like without a strong lead giving her support. She wants to feel the space that you create with your frame, okay? She wants to know where the limits are so that she can express herself fully inside of those limits that you create. It's very hard. It's very hard to fill a container, and that's really what's happening. You are the container, and she is expressing herself fully inside that container. But it's very hard to fill that container if you can't find the edges of it. Okay, you got to show her where you are. If you show her where you are, she'll meet you, I promise. But you have to show her, and that means getting a little more physical, taking a little more assertive control. Again, don't be the second guy, I'm going to get into that, but you need to know. You need to know in your mind before you even start dancing, for good or bad, I'm going to lead this girl, and that means accepting the fact that I have to hold her firmly enough that she knows I'm there. And that means, and I understand it, that if you do poorly, she's going to know. She's going to know it was you. That's okay. That's okay, Because if you're not doing that, you're not leading correctly. It doesn't matter. Give yourself a chance. Give yourself a chance, and that means accepting the possibility that you totally screw it up. All good. Do that. Do that first and foremost. Feel her. Let her feel you, okay? Don't be creepy. You're not grabbing everybody. You're just there. You're present, and she knows it. She will appreciate it, I promise. Other guys, the rougher guys out there, first off, chill out, all right? Don't forget that this is a dance. This is a dance between two people, all right? She's following you, yes, so everything you're leading her through, she has to follow. But don't forget, she's still 50% of this partnership, okay? Your job, believe it or not, is actually not, well, it's certainly not to show off your own moves. Yes, if you're good enough, you can do that too, and that's great. But actually, and something I think a lot of guys don't get, your job isn't actually even to show her off. Hold off on that. Your real job, because I know people will tell you your job is to show her off. I would amend that. Your actual job is to help her show herself off. Okay? If you help her to play and to feel the flow of the dance, she's going to naturally begin to express herself more. Okay? Don't just toss her around like a prop. Trust me, she can feel the difference. She's not going to appreciate it. Okay? Leading is not just getting through a bunch of different moves. Honestly, that's actually the least important part of a dance. You have to, again, like I was telling the other guys, you have to create this firm but safe, solid space that she can express herself in fully. She feels protected, but she also feels observed, but not in an aggressive way. This is going to sound like a silly metaphor, but I think it's very apt. She needs the opportunity to blossom like a flower would, okay? If you create this container and you water it and you give it the right light and everything else, naturally, on its own, because it wants to, because it needs to, it's going to blossom. It's going to show itself. It's going to express itself because it has to do that. It's just the nature of what it is. She's going to do the same thing. But she won't unless and until you create that space for her to do it in. Which means not just literally physically holding it, although yes, that's important, but it means creating this sense from her that she can trust you. Okay? And that's the big deal. If you're being too rough, just because you're getting through the moves technically doesn't mean anything, because she can't trust you. You might hurt her. You maybe don't seem like you really care what she's doing in the dance, which is not a real turn on for her, I promise you. But at the very least, she doesn't trust you. You know, maybe outside of this dance she does, but here and now, not going to happen. So really tone it down if this is your main problem, because honestly, guys, some of the most enjoyable and honestly some of the sexiest dances I've ever had, that I've ever even experienced, were just me and my partner, me and her just softly swaying across the dance floor, just kind of doing a basic step through the whole song. That's it. And you don't need anything else, because it's about the connection. Okay, it's not about this flash, and it's not about this sense of power. It's not that. It's connection. Okay, but you can't connect if you don't do your job correctly. You initiate it, she will come to meet you. All right, don't forget that, because everything that you think is a technical requirement to be a good lead, everything you think is something you need in order to be considered a good dancer, is mostly fluff. Yes, you want it. Yes, you want to know how to execute these great looking moves, and you want to be super smooth about it. That's all great. But here's the thing, that's actually way easier to learn than you think, and it's far less important than learning to do your job, which is to lead. If you get that base, if you get that foundation first, you can pretty much take that anywhere you want. You can learn any moves you want. You can learn how to get her through the moves, even if she doesn't necessarily know them. I mean, don't force it. There's some risks in certain moves, but largely, if you're a good enough lead, you can get your follower through most moves. You'd be surprised. But you can only do that if you learn to lead well. If you only know the move and you don't know how to lead effectively, not going to happen. It's not going to work. And you're going to sit there and you're going to wonder, well, I know how to do this. Why aren't we getting it? It must be her fault that we're not getting through this move. And let me tell you guys, lots of times guys will actually verbally state that to the girl on the dance floor. There are very few things that they hate more than that. Do not be that guy. And because here's the thing, even if you're right, even if it is her fault, even if she's just not cutting it, that's okay. That's not her job. Her job is to follow you. If she's not following you, so be it. Okay, she's got to learn some stuff too, but that's not your concern. Your concern is to learn to lead and to lead effectively. Learning to follow is a skill too, trust me. That's not your job. Learn to lead. Lead well, and you would be amazed how many moves and how many dances and how many styles and everything else that you can get through, that you can learn and do well and have fun with. And the girls are going to just have fun just naturally. And I promise you, other girls are going to notice too. You're going to get, if you do this right, you're going to pretty quickly start noticing other women from across the floor are going to come up and ask you to dance. Okay, because they're going to see, oh, snap, whatever I think of this guy in any other way, he knows how to lead, which means I, the follower, am going to have a real good time. I'm ready. I want to lock him down. Let's go dance. I promise you it happens. I promise you it happens all the time. But the only way you're going to get there is learning to take your time and accept the responsibility that comes with learning to lead. Okay, there's lots of little things, and this is just the first video I want to record. This is going to be a whole channel for me. I really think this is important stuff, and I have taken a lot of time to learn this stuff myself. I'm still learning to this day. I promise you guys I don't know everything, but I've taken a lot of time, and I honestly, I don't know all the moves in the book, not even close. I learned a lot, but talking different styles and everything else. But the thing that I focused on was learning to lead well, because if you do that, you can pretty much approach any dance. And here's the thing, what you're not gonna probably find in lots of places that you go and try to learn. If you learn these skills, this is not going to just stay on the dance floor. Like, this is going to carry over, especially for you guys. Learning to lead, particularly in a physical sense, has a very strong effect on your mental state and your mindset, just sort of passively, because you start to understand what it takes to lead in a way that not only gets results, but that makes people actually want to follow you. That's a big distinction, okay? There's a real difference in just commanding somebody and just expecting that they'll kind of go along with it, versus actually communicating and connecting effectively, really touching on the deeper natural sort of levels of communication that people have with each other, particularly men and women, but honestly just generally, that you're able to resonate with, that they will suddenly want to follow you. They will feel that they trust you. They will feel that, right or wrong, this guy is taking control of the situation in a way that I trust. and that I am willing to commit myself to, which is going to naturally make the partnership better. It's going to naturally make things flow smoother. That's a life skill, guys. That's not just for dancing. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to go ahead and end this video here, but this is going to be the first in a series, a very long series, I hope, of videos that talk about not just the things that I've talked about here, but of all aspects of learning to lead, specifically dancing. That's kind of my forte. That's what I know. That's what I love, and I love to teach anybody really, but especially guys that are just learning these sort of key fundamentals, because I think it's such an important takeaway. Again, way more than any couple of cool flashy moves you might learn if you just took like a one-off sort of dance class or something like that. Maybe it's the one thing you remember, and that's fantastic, guys. I'm not diminishing that at all. But the main thing you need to learn is how to lead correctly. You do that, you can do any dance in the world. Okay, everything after that is simply a matter of time, because you'll learn the moves, you'll learn how to move your body correctly and do all this crazy technical stuff, whatever style you're trying to do. That's icing. Learn to lead. And if that's something that interests you, if that's something you want to commit yourself to, because maybe you've thought about dancing for a long time, or maybe you haven't, but maybe you've listened to what I've said here, or maybe you've heard somebody else somewhere kind of talking about this stuff. Maybe it's just a skill you want to develop. Either way, stick with me. I'm going to talk about a lot of things. Hopefully plenty of them will interest you, and hopefully you just listen to all of it and just absorb, and you can take this stuff and you can go out and you can put yourself in situations, in dance related situations, where you have to take on these skills, and you have to kind of put yourself through this trial by fire. But my goal is to prepare you to do that, and to get you in the right state of mind to where you're willing to kind of grind it out, knowing full well that you're on the right path, you're doing the right things, and that everything else after that, again, is just this matter of time. So with that said, I'm going to stop here, but stick with me, guys, because this is for you, and I hope you appreciate it. I hope you like it, because I want to do this. I want to do this for a long time, so hopefully y'all like listening to me. Thanks. Later.